Welcome back to the Cross Connection, everybody. And we begin this hour with the latest battleground in the culture wars in your kid's school. Now, in Tennessee, a school board voted to ban a Holocaust graphic novel just a couple of weeks before International Holocaust Remembrance Day. In one school district in Missouri, Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, amazing book, by the way, was pulled from school libraries, even though it wasn't part of the district's curriculum. Now, all of this comes as Virginia's new governor, Glenn Youngkin, barred critical race theory from being taught in schools and set up a tip line for people to snitch on their teachers. Small note, critical race theory has not been taught in schools. And Florida state Republicans advanced a bill that would prohibit lessons about racial discriminations that make white students feel discomfort. But let's talk about what they're really trying to do here, and that's whitewash the past. Florida State Representative Ramon Alexander sums it up best.
We are better than this. I love America with all my heart and soul. So what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not anti-American, but I am an American. And my voice matters just as much as your voice. My opinion matters just as much as your opinion. My reality matters just as much as your opinion, and you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Joining me now to break it all down, Roland Martin, host of the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show. Brad Jenkins, founder and CEO of Enfranchisement, and Xochitl Sosa. She's a former DNC spokesperson. Roland, I want to start off with you because this is happening at the state and local level, which are mostly GOP-controlled legislatures, and school boards, which, as we know, are launching pads for right-wing extremists a lot across this country, actually. This is who's driving these book banning policies. What's the impact of whitewashing history for America's youth? Because they are winning. I mean, they're being successful at this.
I would use a different word. I would use two words: white fear. My book, White Fear, drops in September. Here's what you're dealing with: the election of President Barack Obama in 2009 really brought this to the head. There was a poll that was done, was released in 2009. Are you optimistic about the future of America for your children? Every blacks, Latinos, Asians, all majority said yes. Only one group, less than a majority, white American. And so what you're dealing with is you're dealing with this fear of, oh my goodness, we're losing the American way of life. We're losing what we have known. And so therefore, this browning of America, this emerging majority is what is freaking them out. Now, you hear people say, no, I'm not racist, because the problem is, but you're racial. And so what we have to understand is their fear is driving this. The Republican Party is a party that appeals to largely white voters. And so they must lean into this as well, because they see the train coming, and that is they can't win elections if you're only depending on people who are dying at a faster rate than any other group.
You're 100% right, Roland. This is white fear. I mean, this is, a shrinking demographic holding on to power. And Brad, I want you to take a listen to the new governor, Glenn Youngkin, talk about this tip line. Try not to laugh. We'll talk about it on the other side.
We have set up a particular email address for parents to send us any instances where they feel that their fundamental rights are being violated, where their children are not being respected, where there are inherently divisive practices in their schools.
Here's a tip. There's a lot of things that happen in schools where parents feel violated, and you might hear from the parents you don't want to hear from, because what's silent in that sentence is white parents. He wants to hear from white parents, Brad. You have young kids. They're not the best reporters on what happens in their school days at the end of the day. How's this all going to work out for Mr. Youngkin there?
Well, I couldn't agree with Roland more. And it's sad. As a parent, I actually weirdly felt really bad for that school board in Tennessee. And I feel really bad for Governor Youngkin. I mean, what we're doing, we're depriving our children of Toni Morrison? Is this really what we're doing here? And the representative could not be more clear in Florida. This is politically motivated, right? And it's troubling, but the reality is Roland is correct that, the changing of America is happening. And we as parents, I will urge, all the parents out there watching this morning, please run for school board. please get involved, because this is what happens, right? I mean, a lot of times we focus on, federal races, we focus on congressional races, but this impacts your children. This impacts their ability to learn about the Holocaust. Are we kidding? So again, I completely agree with Roland. This is politics at its worst. This is not American. And all the parents watching right now, go look it up. Go figure out a way to run for school board, because we need your voices for our kids.
And I hope people really flood that email address, like flood the tip line. The Republicans did a similar thing around voting, and they wanted people to report problems, and somebody called and said, hey, I just want you to know I voted in all 50 states. I hope they give similar tips to this utterly asinine, ridiculous tip line from folks who claim to care so much about children, which brings me to Ron Johnson. So we got to talk about this. The pandemic has been hard on all of us, but especially parents who have to find and pay for child care. Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who is against child care legislation, had one message for those parents. You're on your own. Take a listen.
People decide to have families and become parents. That's something they need to consider when they make that choice. I've never really felt it was society's responsibility to take care of other people's children.
Okay, so a little interesting note about him. First of all, he's been saying all types of crazy sugar honey iced tea for a long time. This is the same guy who said that the riot seemed like a peaceful protest and that mouthwash has been proven to kill the coronavirus. Just for our viewers at home, it doesn't. What is going to happen with Ron Johnson? Because he's being primaried. The lieutenant governor there, Mandela Barnes, is, or not primaried, but challenged. The lieutenant governor there, Mandela Barnes, is challenging him over this seat. Does he survive?
Listen, I think that the numbers are bad for him. If I were any campaign, there are several candidates running in a primary right now, I would be gearing up and trying to take advantage of this. There are a lot of parents right now who are struggling in the pandemic, and a lot of parents who have kids who are unvaccinated currently. I will tell you that from personal experience, and when one kid is sick in a class or gets COVID, your whole class is out for about 2 weeks. And, I have the flexibility to work from home, but a lot of parents don't right now. And what we've seen from study after study is policies that help with childcare or policies like the child tax credit actually are helping bring families out of poverty right now. And so Ron Johnson can go out there and be the anti-family candidate, or he could be smart and try to embrace some relief for families. But if he's going to continue with this sort of tone of being the anti-family candidate, then yeah, Democrats should be running ads against him. They should be making him that anti-family candidate, because I can guarantee you the constituents in his states don't stand on his side. And so it'll be really interesting to see whether this hurts him in the polls. And if the Democrats have a good strategy and put money behind that, I think it will.
Well, we'll see. I think the question here is, will Republican voters vote him out? They have to take control, which brings me to my next topic. I'm totally obsessed. I live my life like I'm the fifth roommate on the Golden Girls, and I'm normally in bed by 8 o'clock. But last night, I was watching pop icon Janet Jackson. She is taking control and taking down that velvet rope around her private life. 40 years after her first album, a new 2-part documentary premiered on Lifetime and A&E last night. Take a listen.
Whenever Mike would do an album, he'd throw me in his car and we'd listen to it from front to back to see what I thought. I remember really loving the Thriller album. But for the first time in my life, that's when I felt it was different between the two of us. That a shift was happening. He would always come in my room and we'd talk. And this particular time he came in my bedroom, neither one of us said a word to each other. And then he got up and left.
Roland, I am obsessed. I cannot wait for part 2 of this documentary tonight. Janet revealed so much. She talked about the secret baby, her relationship with Michael. Tonight, I have a feeling that they are going to get to the Justin Timberlake thing, and he might want to stay off Twitter. But did you watch last night, Roland? What do you think about all this?
Did record it last night. Certainly have followed the career of Janet Jackson for quite some time. And people have been, first of all, people have been so mesmerized with the Jackson family. One of the things that I did think was critical, if you listen to what she had to say, and then her brothers and others dealt with their father, Joe Jackson. This is someone who has been viciously attacked by people for so long. They call him a brute. But this was a black man who saved all of those children from a different life in Gary, Indiana. And I remember being on a panel at Congressional Black Caucus Foundation after he passed away. And people were, this was actually before that, people were just trashing him. And I said, let me be real clear. You don't know Janet Jackson. You don't know Michael Jackson. You don't know the Jackson 5 without Joe Jackson. And so I really appreciated how they stood up for their father, who was being demeaned by a whole lot of people. I thought that was a huge thing in the documentary that a lot of people have not been talking about.
You know, Roland, I think that's such a good point. I think when we look at things through the lens of 2022 and what the Jacksons went through in the 70s, people have all kind of opinions about his parenting. But Janet Jackson spoke specifically to this and said, discipline without love is tyranny, and tyrants my parents were not. There are times in households where love is understood more often than it's expressed. So I think that's a really legitimate point. Brad, tell me that you watch, because I'm like itching to talk about every little piece of this documentary.
Oh my God, Tiffany, we got to chat, because talking about education, in our household, we teach the education of the queen that is Janet Jackson. I don't think that her music gets as much credit. She was such a trailblazer. I will say it, and at me, there would be no Beyonce without Janet Jackson. Right?
Oh,
I mean,
you've opened up the beehive.
I did it, Tiffany. I did it. I love Janet, the music, everything that she went through. But she was such a trailblazer when it comes to choreography, when it comes to socially conscious music. If you go back and listen to Rhythm Nation at the time that it was put out and look at those videos and those visuals, she really laid the groundwork for a lot of the queens that we love today. So, yes, all hail Queen Janet.
I echo all of that. And so I still know the entire Rhythm Nation video dance sequence. If I were not mic'd up and spanked up, I might do it with you right now. What did you think about the documentary, if you watched? And if you didn't, what do you think about her?
Yeah, so absolutely. I remember when I was a little girl putting on recitals for my parents to Janet Jackson. So this definitely touches home a bit. But I will say that this is sort of what everyone's been itching for. People have been wanting, to hear the story and to hear various pieces and gaps within their lives. And so I think that, this was smart for her to do. I think that, I will definitely be tuning in tonight. And it's something that we all sort of need in a pandemic lull whenever we are itching for good content, and Janet Jackson is that person.
I cannot wait, because I think tonight they're going to get into the whole Super Bowl thing, her marriages and relationships. I thought all that was really interesting too. So, well, too bad we're not on until next week, but I'm going to try to work a Janet Jackson story in this show as often as I can. Thank you guys so much. You were a great panel. Roland, you're always so busy. We love having you on this panel. You always have so much to say, so you'll have to come back, because I know you had a lot more to say today, so you'll have to come back next week, we hope. And good luck with that book, White Fear. I will definitely have you back on to talk about that.
It as we speak.
Oh, I've been through that process. It is a challenge, so good luck. Brad Jenkins, you're awesome, and thank you, Soshi, for always making time for us. Great panel, you guys.